Indeed we do, Tayla. We've got this hyena that's at this den site, and she's a little bit alert at the moment because there's just been an elephant that's made an awful big racket to the north of her, and that's why she's up and standing and looking in that direction. You can see she's just having a look round at us now. Now I wonder if there's not little ones around here. It would be really nice if there was. I'm not sure which hyena this is, so those of you, the viewers, that know exactly which hyenas we see around here and maybe can identify this particular one, can let us know. But let's see, she's going towards the hole. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if she called out some little babies? Let's have a look how she goes. Now, she's definitely interested. Maybe she's just going to lie down at the entrance. No, nothing there. It doesn't look like she's suckling. I don't see any milk or anything like that. So I think if there are young ones, they must be very big by now. Or she's still scouting around and having a look. You can see she's just laying down again. I'm sure the elephants have disturbed a little bit, so they've made a bit of a racket, and so she's just keeping an ear out and listening to these elephants that could be approaching. We didn't see the elephants on the way in, but I'm sure they are coming this way by the sound of them. And wouldn't it be nice if we had all the elephants around here as well? That might be quite interesting to see how she reacts and how she moves. Oh, now she's gone and lay down in the long grass. But isn't that cool? So it must be that they are using this den. If James and Herbie had them the other day and now they're here again, it would seem that they are utilizing this mound again. So it's really good news for us. It's going to be a good place to come and check regularly from now on and see if there is any sign of young ones, if they are going to actually make this their permanent home and we'll get the whole clan in this area. That would be quite nice. But it's definitely not Gwen. The ears are in good condition, so it's not her. I wonder where she's gone. She apparently was evicted by a warthog, so I don't know if she's gone back into that area, but it doesn't look like her from here. The ears are far too clean to be Gwen. But you can see she's having a good rest now. Obviously it's been a long night. I'm sure this hyena was moving around all over the place and looking for food and checking around to see if there's anything that she can scavenge. And so it's now time to have a rest. And I was saying earlier that these conditions are always good for a nap. You find the hyenas often at their den sites in this kind of weather, having a good sleep in these thickets. So it's not a great morning for activity in terms of the hyenas. They like to have a little bit of a rest in cooler weather, and I'm hoping that there is going to be some sign. I wonder if maybe us just approaching, if there are young ones, that they might have just moved off a little bit. If these guys have denned in the Manualeti in the last few months, there could be young ones that have not seen too many vehicles, and so it could have dashed into the hole when we arrived. So I want to spend some time here and just sit very quietly and just see if maybe some little ones will pop out. But like I say, that adult doesn't look like there's any sign of milk production. Her teats are not swollen in any way, which would be a sign that she does have very small ones. So it's possible that they're a little bit older, or she just doesn't have at this stage and is busy looking for a place to spend time. But you can see how well worn the hole is at the moment. So, Miss Sky, you're wondering whether or not it's easy to tell the difference between male and female hyenas. It's actually not that easy when they're adults. The only thing that you can use is that the females are much larger than the males, but it's not easy because the females will actually have what's called a pseudopenis. So they have a fake male genitalia that is basically an extension of their birth canal and their genitals, and it forms this fake male genital that further dominates the male. So if you see them, it looks like a male often, but it's actually a female. So the only way to really do it is by size. The females are much bulkier, much bigger in the shoulder areas, and then are slightly larger than the males. And that's really the only way. If you get sub-adult hyenas, it's very tough to tell the difference between the male and female. They often are the same size at a young age and can make it quite hard. Alright, so we're going to sit tight here for a little bit and sit nice and quietly and see if maybe we get lucky with some young hyenas. And while we do that, let's go to Brent, who I believe is forging on in his bird challenge.
Now, there used to be an owl that was hand-reared in the Okavango that used to live at one of the safari lodges, and his name was Mr. Bigglesworth. Oh, shame, it's gold. Now, there should be a pair. I'm just going to move around the tree a little bit, see if we can spot the second one. Might be in a little bit open, a little bit more open. Let's have a look. We got one. Or maybe we even get a better view of that one. Now, where's the second? It could easily be in another tree close by. They must have a nest around here. Oh, Brian, I think I can get you a slightly better view from here. Is there a little gap there for you? Or is the roof? Where is he? I think, is he above? I think, I can't see him now. Is he? Hang on, sorry. He's just in the roof.
Yeah.
Oh dear. But I can't see the second one. The second one could easily be in a tree close by. Maybe if we try from a bit, we're trying to find a gap in the tree. No, I'm afraid he's very, very much, oopsie, in the thicket of the tree to where we were. A bit wider, maybe we can get a slightly better angle. No, I think that's it, that is the best. So cute. Well, we're going to leave the white-faced owl snoozing in the bush willow tree, and let's go back to Tristan and the hyenas.
Well, I'm quite jealous of Brent. The white-faced owl is one of my favorite owls. Those eyes are just absolutely incredible, the bright orange that they have. So, a bit jealous of Brent, but a very good find nonetheless. And our hyenas have not moved at all. Well, hyena, should I say. She's still fast asleep, all curled up tight, and is just taking it very, very easy at this stage. So I believe all the viewers have sent in the ID for this particular hyena, and they say that it is ribbon, which is, I'm not sure too much of the history as to which hyena it's linked to. I know Jamie went through the whole family tree the other day, but I wasn't able to see all of it, so I'll have to ask her when I get back as to where this hyena fits in and how it all works. But they really do make me laugh. They're such comical characters with those big round ears, and they're so inquisitive. Any sort of noise around them, and they like to look around and see what's going on and investigate all that is happening around them. So they really are interesting animals to follow and to watch. Very, very, very cool. I'm sure it still can hear the elephants that are moving around north of us here. I can hear them every now and then breaking a branch. I don't know how many elephants are there, but I'm sure that's what she's listening to. You can imagine those ears, how much sound they catch, those big radar-like ears. Very, very, very good for catching lots of sound waves and being able to hear what's going on. Remember, hyenas have a very, very good sense of smell and hearing, and they need it given that they are out a lot at night. It's difficult to see in the evening, so to be able to hear very well and smell very well is important. And that's why those ears are constantly moving just to catch the sound waves that could potentially be traveling towards this hyena. She can then be very assured of her environment and know what's around her, and if there's potential food items or if there's a potential predator around that she needs to be wary of. And you'll find that often with hyenas, if they hear something like monkeys alarm calling or Impala's alarm calling, they'll get up and they'll go straight there. And the reason why is they often know that that's a sign that a leopard is around, and leopards often have food. And given that a hyena is almost a similar size to a leopard and sometimes heavier than a leopard, they often can bully leopards off carcasses, and so they go and investigate what these animals are shouting about and alarm calling about, and go and see if there's a potential meal that they can go and scavenge. And so that's what she's what she's listening out for. And even though it's now in the morning and she's probably been fairly active during the evening, she'll still, if she hears that, go and investigate. It's ultimately very good weather for that. It's not too hot, so she doesn't have to worry about moving around in the heat. Go and just investigate and see if there's any sign of anything. It's all quiet at this stage. Like I say, only the elephants are really making a bit of noise, so it's all very, very relaxed at the den at this stage. We'll find if some stage we get little ones, then it becomes a little bit more entertaining around here. There'll be a lot more playing going on, and if those little ones get used to us, then it would be great, because we'll end up with a situation with lots of activity and lots of interaction amongst them. So Marvin, you want to know if hyenas are felines or canines? Well, they're neither. They are in their own family altogether. They are part of the Hyenidae family, so they are in their own classification, and they don't have a relation to the dogs and the cats, but they say genetically that they are probably more closely related to cats than they are dogs, but they are in their own family altogether. And funny enough, they were saying, some of the viewers are telling me now that Ribbon is a boy, and now that we see him, and it does look like he's very, very big. He must be one of the high-ranking males then within this clan, because he's large for a male, much bigger than what you normally see with males. And I suppose given that there's no point of reference with females, it can be quite tough to sex them. So it's interesting that he would be at a den site or at a hole by himself. It would then tend to suggest that there really is no sign of any young ones being here, because no female is going to leave a male looking after young hyena pups. So this must just be one of the males that's just found an area where he can at least rest and have a hole that he can go into should it start to really rain, which is quite interesting. But he is very fast asleep. What I'm going to try to do is just go around a little bit and see if I can maybe get a little bit of a better view of him. Now that he's tucked his head behind the grass there should be a little bit of an elevated point that we can see a little bit better. Alright, so we're going to reposition, and while we do so, let's go to Tayla and see what she's got for us.
Now I was digging up some pictures for you. Aaron, you were asking the question about, was it Aaron? I have to look on my taint document. Oh, Aaron, I'm correct. Yes, memory one to me. So you were asking earlier, and we'll just quickly elaborate, because it was very exciting to see those hyenas, of course. And I must say, Tristan, when I first saw Ribbon, I thought that she was a female as well. Remember, I had her yesterday, and he joined us, with a giraffe. And my initial thoughts were, whoa, that's a big hyena, probably a female. But anyway, very interesting that I found out, obviously, that Ribbon is not a girl, Ribbon is a boy. So very interesting about that. So do you want to have a look at what a crane fly looks like? Here we go. This is the adult version. Now, they're pretty incredible. And most of you know that a lot of these insects, the adult forms, don't necessarily eat. Some of them will feed on sort of nectar from plants, but that's not necessarily sort of food. It's more fuel. It's to supply them with energies. Butterflies do that, for example. The larvae eat themselves until they explode out of their skin, and then they form a cocoon, of course, and they turn into something absolutely beautiful. And then the adults, very much like the crane fly, they feed on just nectar. And well, so do so do mosquitoes as well, really, I suppose. They do the same thing. So the larvae of the crane fly, now I have a picture of a larvae for you as well. Have a look at this weird looking thing. Their nickname is the leather jacket because of their grey tough skin, and they are specialists at feeding on mosquito larvae. So that's one of the things. And well, the crane fly is good because if you can take a mosquito out when it is still very little, rather than have it turn into, of course, a blood-sucking machine, that's fine with me. Bats are another one. Bats are absolutely unbelievable at catching mosquitoes. The Microcroptera, so the smaller species of bats, not the fruit-eating bats, these are the insect-eating bats, and they can eat up to 1,000 mosquitoes in an hour. Can you imagine how many mosquitoes they must feast upon at night? So I hope that we get an influx of bats at the moment so that they can take care of the mosquito populations for us, but many other things. Because mosquitoes, you don't just see them at dusk, at dawn, or at night. You do see them occasionally flying around during the day, and that's where the various birds, the frogs, and dragonflies will take care of the rest of the mosquitoes. Dragonflies are actually very nimble, and they are fast flying and able to swoop down and catch those mosquitoes. Right, and we've got another question. So speaking about what the various insects to feast upon, Bree, you were wondering what do the males mosquitoes eat? So they feed on nectar, plant material. They're looking for that sugary substance. So again, a lot of these insects, they eat more than what they need when they're younger. So that allows them to carry on with life. They're just looking for fuel to get the energy sort of buzzing a little bit. And then the females, one of the reasons why they are feasting on blood, and I apologize, I didn't go into it earlier, but we'll recap right now, saving it for now, is that the main reason why a female feasts on blood is that, especially when she's needing to prepare her eggs, she needs the protein that you get from blood. Otherwise, she'll have a little dab of some nectar too. And I mean, what girl doesn't like something a little sweet? So she'll have a little bit of that as well. But males are strictly vegetarians feeding on nectar. Isn't that amazing? Now, something else that we've been chatting about, Viam and I have been actually having a lot of fun. We've been looking at all the different skulls and things in the tent. And I know a couple of you are wanting us to compare some of the skulls, so we will set some of those up. I'm just going to lift my hat. Has my hat fine, Viam? Can you see my eyes? Are they not dark?
Nice.
Are they nice? Thank you very much, Viam. It's the nicest compliment Viam's ever given to me before. I think it's because I've got his mosquito hostage. But this is the skull of a hyena. Isn't that incredible? I'm going to open it up for you. Look at those teeth. That is a scary, scary, scary jaw. Now, something that's really fantastic about them, and I'm just going to pull the skull apart because I want you to just look at the bottom ones. Actually, we'll look at both of them. Look how broad and robust the teeth are. So not quite sort of slender, but really they're not for tearing meat, not for tearing flesh. They are robust because they've got to crush all of that bone. I mean, you can imagine. Right, where's the bone, Liam? Let's get this jaw going. Let me find one. I think there was a small one here. Let's find one of these. Can I have one of those? Let's go with one of these. You can imagine. Probably not this bone. I've just grabbed anyone, but something smaller, maybe like a radius or something like that. Am I going to make it eat enough? VMs now. This is our jackal skull, hey? Okay, cool. So we've got the jackal skull because we're going to compare the jackal and the wild dog skull at some point too. But you can imagine something like this, if a hyena were to catch a jackal, and not to say that it would have absolutely no problem with its massive, powerful jaws crushing down on that. I'm not going to push it hard because I'm so frightened that I do break it, but you can see a hyena would easily be able to do that, and then it would just down onto that skull, and I promise you it would just break into so many small pieces. They are incredibly powerful, and I've watched, I mean, we're very fortunate, we've all sat and watched hyenas feasting on bones. The one day I had an amazing sighting with a hyena and a young leopard. So this young male leopard, he's just starting, I don't know what accent that is or where that word's come from, but has just started hunting for himself, and he caught an impala, a young impala ram, sort of like the ones that are running around at the moment that have been told, right, off you go, you're not a part of the breeding herds anymore. So they're young, they're just over a year old, very inexperienced. Often they get separated and left on their own, and it was the most amazing sighting. We saw him in the tree with his kill. Being inexperienced, he was wriggling it around a bit. It dropped on the ground and it went. And as that happened, I kid you not, 2 hyenas came darting out of the bushes. You know that amazing comical run that they do, running towards it, grabbed it and ran. And this particular male leopard was still quite shy and skittish of the vehicles, and was the first time that he ever approached us. We always used to give him a lot of space, and he's known as the white dam male, or the young white dam male, and he's down in the southern sector of the Sabi Sands. So he came around, he walked right past my vehicle. I was in complete shock. He was obviously so desperate to go back and claim his kill from these hyenas. So he went over, and there was a lot of snarling, and he was spitting and all those types of things. And the hyenas just sort of looked at him and went, whatever, you know, you're not going to bother me. It was a big female, and then I suspect one of her juveniles was a young male with her as well, and they feasted upon this entire impala. And even though the impala was whole, the little one was feasting on the flesh, but the adult went straight into the bone. She grabbed the leg and she crunched down with these big teeth right here at the back, and you can see they're like molars, but they've sort of got a bit of a twist to them as well, and just completely crunching, and that's all you could hear, just hear the crunch. And it was unbelievable. It's the most incredible sounds to hear. And, well, I found that quite fascinating. But it seems as though Mr. Leo Smith has moved on from the Nkuhumas. I'm not sure what he's got up his sleeve next, but I'm sure it will involve some more birds. He seems to be doing an owl morning. Should we go take a look and see what he's bumbling and doing now?
My whistling is obviously horrible, but we are singing in the rain. Brian, your whistling's probably better than mine. Oh, it is. There we go. There's no doubt. Okay. I'm quite embarrassed about my whistling now. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Brian. Singing in the rain. Now, we were actually slowly making our way towards some elephants, but it seems like Tristan just stole them, so it's fine, you know. We're going to go check the western sectors. Maybe a chance at shadow coming through around Impala Road. So we are keeping with our snail's pace safari today. And a couple of reasons. It's cold, one, and also we really don't want to miss any of the tracks. And we've been quite lucky with the owls so far, so you never know what birds we might come across in our wanderings. Remember, hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV if you would like to get hold of us or ask us any questions about what's going on. I should have got a hot water bottle this morning. So let's go across to the pachyderm thief, Tristan.
I can't have stolen his elephant since we were at the den and the elephants were right there. So sorry, Brent, I'm afraid these elephants bumped us. But we are going to show you the elephants now. They are here, I can promise you. They're all just getting into this riverbed now. So they're starting to go into this drainage area. And there's a couple females here and quite a few young ones. And Craig was just telling me that this is the same herd that he had last night with Jamie. And I know Jamie spent a long time with them. They were very entertaining, playing in mud and going crazy yesterday afternoon. So I'm hoping that they are going to do the same this morning. We are slowly heading towards some muddy wallows, so I'm hoping that we're going to get a nice big mud bath going shortly. But it's a nice sized herd. There's quite a few of them in this, and the reason why we know it's the same herd is because there's a very distinctive female in amongst them. She's got a very interesting tusk that grows backwards, which I will show you just now when we get round the herd and onto the other side. But they will be so happy with this weather that they've been having the last few weeks. It's, as long as it's not windy, they're very, very comfortable in cold, cooler weather. Particularly when it's quite wet and rainy. You can imagine being such a large animal when it's 40 degrees and the sun is beating down, they get really, really hot and it's quite uncomfortable. But when it's weather like this, it means they can feed all day long, no hassles, they don't have to worry about being blazed by the sun, and so you find them in the open areas moving around. Like I say, as long as there's no wind. As soon as there's wind, they don't like it very much, and then you'll find they'll go into thicker, denser vegetation. I see there's one that's going to come out into the open here, Craig. That will be quite nice as well. There's one of the young males that's coming past now. You'll often find this as the herd moves along, so the young males will fall off the back end and they kind of drift along in the background. They don't like to really keep up too much with the herd and do what the herd does. They like to do their own thing and be a little bit boisterous in the back. There was two young males that were having a big game and pushing each other around until Mom got involved just now and stopped all of that nonsense, and the two of them were then disciplined and put into line and are now walking behind Mom looking very sulky with life. But like I say, we're going to try see if we can just go around them and get to the front edge of the herd and see if they'll then go to one of these wallows. So Megan, you're asking whether the animals react to the changes in pressure from these varying systems of weather that we get, and yes, some of them do. So in times when we get a lot of floods and bad weather, you'll find some of the animals are really good at moving around and getting out of low-lying areas. So especially things like hippos and snakes, they'll move out of the way of a drainage line or riverbed so as that they do not get caught in raging torrents of water that come down those drainage areas. So yes, they are sensitive to it and they do move accordingly. Comes another beautiful elephant. Now this elephant's only got one tusk that's about to come our way. You can see she's got her left tusk is missing, so unfortunately for her that probably broke off. Now it would have been when she was digging for roots or trying to leverage bark off a tree, and unfortunately she maybe just used a bit too much leverage and snapped that tusk. Now if that tusk is snapped above the lip line, so inside that lip line, unfortunately that tusk will never grow back again. It's basically like damaging the root of your tooth. You're not going to get a new tooth growing there. But if it breaks on the outside of the lip line, then the tusk will continue to grow throughout its lifetime. Sorry, in your way there, Craig. You can see they are just absolute eating machines, and at this time of the year most of their diet is going to be grass. You can see they're focusing quite heavily on the grass, and the reason why is because the grass has all got seeds on it at the moment, and those seeds are really nutritious and full of oils and minerals that are really good for the elephants. So at this time of the year they get to about 60% of their diet will be just grass. And what's interesting is you see this elephant has fed his way towards this termite mound that's on the right hand side, and that termite mound, the reason why it's coming towards it is because generally with termites is that they either have a fungus inside there or they are going to build their mound out of their saliva and their feces, and so it's like a whole compost heap, and the grass that grows there is far more nutritious than anywhere else, and so they come onto this grass to be able to feed off it and get all the best nutrients possible to be able to have a good meal. So you'll find rhinos, elephants, kudu, impalas, buffalo all feeding heavily around termite mounds. just to get that extra nutrients. Now it's going to be interesting to see. I can hear the rest of them are moving forward towards these mud wallows, so I want to just try to get to the mud wallows first so that we can see them all coming down. But they are a very relaxed group of elephants. They are not too worried about our presence in amongst them. Just trying to see where the rest have gone. They were all in this area here and they were moving that way, so I just want to go around to this mud wallow that's coming up and see if some of them aren't already there. But I was saying to Jamie yesterday, it's been a while since I've seen a really nice big group of elephants and a relaxed group, and today we're getting fortunate in that we are seeing them, so I'm really happy to see them. I love spending time with elephants, particularly these big herds. They're so great to be a part of. There's so much interaction amongst all the elephants, and there's lots of little antidotes that they do and movements that they make that always make me quite happy and entertained. So the beginning of the herd is, we're just starting to come up to the beginning of them. They're all in this riverbed system at the moment, and I'm hoping that they're going to come to this mud wallow here. So this is where I think they're going to come and have a little splash around. So what I want to do is just position ourselves that we can see them if they do come. You can just see the trunk of one starting to come through there now, and they're still feeding as they go, but they are slowly but surely making their way to this area. So like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of wallowing and playing. It's the right kind of conditions, and the young ones look like they are in a playful mood, so it would be great to see if we come here and they start splashing and rolling around. I think we might have to back up a little bit if they do, because otherwise we're going to be covered in mud as well. I think also the thing is that they are feeding, so it's going to take them a little bit of time. They're not going to run straight to the water. It's not like a hot day when they are absolutely parched and really hot and they just want to cool down and get water. Then you'll find the elephants will come running towards a water source. In weather like this, they slowly make their way and they do a little bit of feeding as they go, and they know that there's lots of time to get to the water and there's lots of water around, so there's really no rush, and they'll just take it easy and feed slowly as they come. Now unfortunately one has disappeared that I could see, but they are still coming. So, Lucian, you want to know why they're going to go to the mud if it's very, very cold. Well, the reason is that the mud acts as an exfoliator, so it's very, very good for their skin. It's going to help get rid of all the dead skin cells that have built up. Also, if there's any parasites, they can utilize it to get rid of those parasites, so the mud can dry, and then they can go and have a good rub on a tree and then get rid of all of that. Now you can see it's coming to test the water. Did you see it put its trunk in to see how fresh this water is? And when it realizes that this water is not very good for drinking, it then just carries on. And see, it's sniffing the other dung. Alright, so there's an elephant that's been here before, so it's just having a little sniff just to see what elephant that is and who it is. But I think this elephant has decided this water is no good for drinking, so is just going to leave it. It takes a sip up and it will probably realize there's lots of mud in there and it doesn't taste very good, and that's why it's not drinking it. And so it's gone to another little wallow which is much smaller and probably fine. Not too many animals have actually spent time sitting in it like the bigger one. You'll find the bigger one, buffalo, elephants, rhinos will often go into those areas and have a good wallow, whereas that smaller one, probably not too many animals have been in there, so that water will be a little bit fresher and cleaner. Now you'll see when it drinks, it'll put water in and then it will extend the trunk and some of the water will drop out. Now the reason it's doing that is because as it pulls up water, there's going to be sediment in the water, so there's going to be little particles of soil, and that's going to all sink to the bottom of the water when it's in the trunk and curled, and then when it drops out it'll just push out all of that sand so that it doesn't actually have to drink it. It'll only get the nice fresh water. And we've actually got a really nice big bull that's joining us now. He's just coming in from the left hand side. Look at that. It's going to be interesting to see how the herd reacts now, because often when big bulls come in, the herd will often stop feeding and they start to react to this male. You'll find that the ears will go up. There will be lots of vocalizing, so it's going to be interesting to see how everybody goes. So, Virginia, you want to know when the males start mating. Now that we've got a big male on the scene, you said that the males start mating around 35 years. And when do the females start mating? Well, the females can start mating as early as 12 years. So they can already start breeding at 12 years old, which is very early on. But it is needed because they have long gestation periods and long times that they suckle their young. So the intervals between calves are quite long. And so if they only started breeding at 35, they would probably only produce 3 or 4 calves, or maybe even 3 is probably a better term. And so they wouldn't really reproduce much. Whereas if they start early on at 12, they can produce quite a number of calves through their lives. Now you see that male, he keeps going with his trunk and sniffing between the female's back legs. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to see if this female's in heat. He might have picked up the dung or urine of some of these elephants from yesterday or during the night and has followed it in. And now he's realizing that there's a female that could potentially be an estrus that he might be able to mate with. And so that's why he's putting his trunk between her legs and sniffing to try and see if he can pick up any of those pheromones coming through her urine. And you can see an amazing size difference there between these elephants. So the female on the left and then the male on the right. You can see how much taller he is. It's pretty incredible how much bigger he is than she. Now, you can imagine when they're mating, it's not a very pleasant experience for the female. And so that's why you'll often see that female elephants, when they want to mate, will go towards a water source, particularly very deep ones, and they'll wade in and the male will actually mate with her in water. And that just alleviates the weight of that male. Now this female can't be an estrus because that male is completely ignoring her now. He's turned his back and is moving off a little bit. So maybe there's another female around. There are a number of females within this herd that could potentially be ready for mating. See how she also just disturbs the surface tension of the water, gets rid of all this built up muck on top and tries to get to the cleaner water below. Actually hear her slurping up the water as well. Isn't that amazing? It's so nice just to sit and listen to them as well. I know you want to know where elephants get their salt from. Well, elephants will get a number of minerals and salts from water sources. You often find in Botswana areas that they'll go to these salt pans and they go and drink from the water out of the salt pans just for that purpose. I have sometimes seen them actually eating soil that contains minerals and salts as well. And every now and then, very rarely, you'll find they'll put a bone in their mouth and they'll suck off a bone a little bit, and there'll be some salts and calcium that they'll get out of that as well. But a lot of it comes from the water they drink. And like I say, they will eat a little bit of mud as well that contains salty soils. Look at this. You would think that there was no need to throw mud on them in this cooler weather, but like we were saying earlier, it's just all to help with exfoliating of the skin and to keep the skin in good condition. You'll find once they've thrown mud like this, they often then go up to a tree and start rubbing, and that will just get rid of all those dead skin cells. And the abrasive nature of mud means that it's almost like going for a spa day and you get that rough scrub put on you and you scrub yourself, and it just exfoliates everything and makes the skin feel really good. Now I wonder if these elephants haven't noticed that the rain is starting to come, because we've got a bit of rain that's starting to fall now, and it looks like most of them are starting to go down into the drainage line itself. And so earlier we were talking about pressures and whether elephants react to the changes in weather and the pressures that causes. And well, this is exactly what's happening. It seems like now that they've realized the rain is starting to come, rather than being right out in the open and completely exposed to this, they're going to start moving down into this little ditch where there's lots of big trees, and they can stay out of the rain a little bit and stay a little bit warmer. There's also a bit of a wind that's starting to pick up now, a bit of a breeze that's moving the leaves. So Mario, you want to know whether they can save water in their trunks for later. Mario, they don't, unfortunately. The reason why is their trunk is also the way that they are breathing and smelling. So if they had water in there, their sense of smell would be completely disabled. So rather than carrying water around, they would rather be able to smell what's going on. Also, if they have water inside their trunk, they're going to have to hold their trunk up and around their mouth, because otherwise the water is all going to come draining out. They don't have a membrane or a way to stop the water coming out of the trunk from the bottom, so they cannot store water in there and take it with them. The nice thing about elephants is that they're very resourceful when it comes to water. So even in the dry months when we really battle to find much water, they will be able to dig. So they go into riverbed areas where it's sandy, and they dig these massive holes. And you would think it would be really difficult for an elephant to dig, but their feet are well designed for it. They have these big disc-like feet, and they kick out the sand, and they're able to then get water that fills up from there. So Rocky and Doreen, I believe you're new viewers. Welcome to the show. I hope you are enjoying it so far. It's lovely to have you with us. And you want to know whether or not their trunk is like a nose. Well, yes, it is. It's a modified nose. It's just very, very long, and it's very, very useful. So it's almost like a cross between a hand and a nose, and it's able to breathe through it. They're able to suck water through it and then push it into the mouth. They use it for their sense of smell as well, and even sometimes as a defensive weapon. So if they come across something, they'll often hit it with their trunk and throw it away. So they use it quite a bit. It's a very multi-purpose tool. It's like having a Leatherman, which is a type of tool that we have in South Africa with lots of different attachments on it. So I'm just going to reposition because it seems like they're moving on a little bit. So Lauren, you want to know whether the mud really works as sunblock? Well, I suppose it does have a sun-blocking effect. It's like if you had to cover yourself in mud, you're not going to get burnt at all. But I don't think it's as good as the sunblock that we use. We ultimately have chemicals and laboratories that are able to work out the best possible product to protect our skin, whereas out here there's really not very much. So the mud would be probably the best thing out here that we could use. Like I say, it will form a layer, and the UV rays really shouldn't penetrate that, and therefore it will be a good sunblock to have. So yes, I would imagine it works fairly well. Like I say, I have put mud on my arm, and if you sit in the sun for a while, you'll actually notice where the mud was. You don't get burnt. You can see some of the smaller ones just coming through in the background there. It's quite a difficult area that they've come into now. There's lots of big trees and dense vegetation, so we're going to have to just sit tight where we are and hope that they start coming out. You can see there is a little bit of a gentle flap of the ears at the moment. So if we had come across this herd in very hot weather, the ears would be moving quite a bit. Did you hear that? That's amazing. So that's one of the adult females that's just grumbling, and so that's a part of their communication that we can hear, and so that's them talking to one another. You can see her, she's just in front of our vehicle here, so she's just talking to the rest of the herd and seeing where they are, what they're doing, and making sure that they are all on the same page and everybody is okay. Now there will be sounds that they will be making that we can't hear. They produce very low frequency sounds that only they can pick up. Unfortunately our ears are not capable of hearing that, but it would be amazing to know what they actually say to each other. I would imagine there's quite a bit of communication goes on, And you see how they often, when they start these grumbles, that the whole herd starts to come together and they actually start to move. So there's different ways of communicating. Now the whole herd is just starting to emerge now. They're all starting to come out in front of us here. There's lots and lots of them coming out of this riverbed system, which is really nice. And it seems like there's a couple males that are in here sniffing out the females. There's just a couple of them coming down the road. There's a female being followed by a male, so I'm just going to give them a little bit of space so that it looks like they've actually turned off the road, so we're all good. Mary, you want to know whether the elephants will choke on all the water that they drink. Well, no, they won't. They, much like us, they know how much water they need, and they control the flow of water by spraying it in with their trunk. So they'll just slowly push it in, and they then won't have to choke on it. It's not like a high-pressure hose that's being sprayed into their mouth. They can control the way that they tense their muscles and the amount of water that they then push in to be able to swallow. So I was just keeping an eye on them because the bulls are in amongst the herd. They want to be a little bit careful when the males are around, because sometimes they push the females a little bit and you just got to watch what's going on. So Rebecca's asking me, do any animals choke? Well, I've seen hyenas, lions, leopards, pretty much all the meat eaters. Often they take a little bit too much of a bite and there's a bone or something in there and they can end up choking on that bone, but it's not for long. They kind of cough and splutter and out it comes, or it goes down the other way and that's the end of it. So they are animals that do choke a little bit, but nothing that I know of that chokes on water. But this is the most amazing experience, to just be sitting here and to be surrounded by elephants and watching them go about their business. There's elephants feeding all over the place. It's really quite something to be a part of. So there is a vehicle that's part of one of the lodges that is here, and one of the little elephants, which is quite typical, the little elephants often have lots of attitude and are quite brazen, is having a little trumpet at the other car. It's telling the car to go away, that's enough of you, and they've learnt that behavior from their mom. So as their mothers start to teach them and show them the ways, they often bump into things like lions and leopards and hyenas, and the mothers will trumpet and put their heads up and get their ears out and chase that predator away. And so when the little babies see a big vehicle, they're a little bit unsure about all of this, and so they try and emulate their moms and do the same thing. Isn't that incredible? So we're going to spend a little bit longer with these elephants because it's a magical sighting. And while we do that, let's go back to Tayla in her warm, dry tent.
I'm only warm, Tristan, because I have my lovely jacket on. It's keeping me, well, nice and toasty. I'm jealous that you've got some elephants, but we don't have any elephants joining us in the tent like you almost had with Brent yesterday. But we do have, well, what comes out of an elephant's bottom. And this is some very, very old elephant dung, as you can see. It's wet. It's not very tasty. I don't think the dung beetles would want to feed on this. And then, of course, as you can see, it's got a little fungi, a couple of fungi sprouting out of it, and it's very pretty. We might actually have a look at these under the microscope a little bit later. But what I have got for you is we're going to take a look at the microscope right now. Here we go. There is elephant dung, and it's this particular elephant dung that is under the microscope at the moment. It doesn't look like too much, but you can see that it wasn't very well digested. You can see how dark and sort of black in color it's gone now from sitting in the sun and baking. And, well, there was only one little ball of elephant dung, so I suspect that the rest of it has either been kicked open and destroyed by the guinea fowls and the franklins, or the dung beetles have been in full force and they have been feasting upon it. But I just wanted to show you what it looked like. It's quite gross, don't you think? It doesn't look too wonderful, but let's come back to me now and we have a look. So as you all know, is of course with the elephants is that they don't have the greatest digestive system. And well, look at that. It looks like a piece of twig that's come out of this piece. We'll get rid of that. I can't see any. This is how I know that it's also old, is that there's not a marula in this dung. And we should have found some with marulas, but we would have had to have gone far. I'm just trying to break it. Look at that. Not a single marula. Oh, termites. That's cool. Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible. Can you see all the termites? They're just on the left-hand side. Oh, I'm so sorry, termites. I didn't realize you were living here. I thought this piece of dung was unoccupied. But there they are. They're getting rid of the rest, of course, of, well, all of this dung that is here, and it'll probably take some time. So I just really love nature, how absolutely nothing goes to waste. The elephants don't have the greatest digestive system, but that suits, well, something like a termite and a dung beetle quite well. Because when it is a bit firmer and there's a bit more fibers in the dung, especially for a dung beetle, it makes it easier to use its little legs and, of course, its spade-shaped head to maneuver the dung into small balls. Oh, my goodness, we're very quickly going to go across to Tristan, who has got the smallest little elephant calf.
So we have just been swallowed by an elephant herd. We have them everywhere around us. It is absolutely incredible. And they are the cutest little babies that are everywhere. There's this tiny little one that came to check us out. It came right to the front of the vehicle and gave a little sniff around. And it's got quite a personality. Look at the little ears coming out. So it's making itself bigger, and now it's charging at us to try and intimidate us a little bit, which is exactly what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Isn't it amazingly cute? Baby elephants have got to be one of my favorite things. They are so adorable. Ooh, negotiating a fallen over tree is not as easy as it looks. Now, I was saying earlier that we have a very distinctive female, and you can see her sitting right in front of me here. So there, look at her tusk. Look at how her tusk grows backwards. So very different to any of the other elephants, and it's always an easy way to identify this herd is through this tusk that tends to grow the wrong direction. Now, it's not going to affect her in any way. You can see she's a healthy animal. Oh, we're being investigated by another elephant. So there we go. There's a little young male that's coming to say hello and coming to see what we're doing. So they're quite curious, the young elephants. They like to come and see who we are and why we're in the middle of the herd and whether or not we're a threat. But you can see we're not too much of a threat. They're just curious, and as long as we sit still and quietly, we won't have too many problems. They'll be fairly relaxed around us, and as long as the adults are relaxed, the young ones won't give us too much of a problem. And you can see this female, she's just sniffing us just to see what we are, but she's not too concerned about us being here at this stage. But isn't it incredible just to be in amongst them all? I can't describe the feeling that you get when you sit amongst them and there's all these bits of movement around you, and there's feeding, and there's trunks and ears, and it is quite something to be a part of this. So I'm just going to get out the way, sorry guys. It's a little bit difficult when they're right here. Got to do a bit of yoga to get out of the way of the camera a little bit. But look at the long eyelashes there. You can see how elephants have massively long eyelashes, and that's just to protect the eyes from all the dust. When they're throwing mud and dust all over themselves, they sometimes get a bit of dust into the eyes, and so that just helps to keep the eye nice and clean and free of dirt. That elephant is standing not even 2 meters from where I am, and it's quite something to see how relaxed they are. If an elephant was very upset with our presence, it wouldn't have come anywhere near us. They ultimately have decided on their own accord to approach where we are. We sit quite far away from them, and they've decided that we're not something to worry about and have come closer to see. Now that, coupled with the fact that they're feeding, means that we don't have to worry too much. An elephant that is upset will stop feeding and will be ears out, head up, raised, and it will take a very aggressive posture with you. When they're sitting like this and feeding and their legs are resting, then they are perfectly happy and they are not too concerned with what's going on around them. So we are perfectly safe in amongst this herd. It's really nothing to worry about at this stage. The only thing that could potentially make a little bit of a problem would be if a big male came in and chased them, but it seems all is good for now. Look here, maybe we're going to get a little bit of playing. Look at that. So typical young boys having a little bit of a playtime. And so some of the viewers say that this female with the backward facing tusk is known as Fang. I suppose that's a very good name for her. It does look like a fang protruding. Now you can see the big bull coming down the road now. So he's done a whole big loop through this entire herd and is now coming straight down the road towards us. So we'll just keep an eye on him. Hopefully he's going to turn off, and he has, which is great, because if we're in his way and he feels like we're blocking his route to the females, he could be a bit of a handful. But he's turned off, and so all is okay at this stage. Now, I just want to let one of the elephants that's really close to us move past us before I turn around, because most of the elephants are at that little mud wallow that we were at earlier. They've gone and had a little drink and spray. So now that that one is moving off, I can turn around. So, Robin, you want to know how we can tell the difference between female and male elephants? Well, Fang is just backing out here, so I'm just going to see where she wants to go. But if you look at her, you'll notice that she has quite an angular forehead. So she has a very, very pointed forehead, which the females will have, whereas the males tend to get a little bit more of a rounded forehead. Also, with the females, they tend to have very long, narrow tusks with not too much in the way of thickness, whereas the males tend to get these very thick, broad tusks as they go. Also, the females will have a slightly longer distance between their front and back legs, and the reason why is their spine is a little bit more elongated to be able to allow for the calf that they're going to have to be able to fit. So the males is a slightly shorter distance between back and front legs. So I just want to try to see if I can go back, because all these elephants are having a royal game in the mud wallow here. So I'm going to just try to see if I can edge my way back. But it seems like we're all going to disappear now. There we go. So unfortunately, I will try and reposition a little bit, but a male has also approached the mud wallow, so that's why everybody is scattering around and is moving off slightly. Now you can see the male here is busy smelling this young female. Now she's really, really small, so she's not going to be enjoying this attention from these males. I would imagine that this is probably the first time that she's coming into an estrus cycle. She's probably about that age. She's 11 or so, around there, and that's why she's getting so much attention from the boys. You can see two different males are standing over her, the big male on the left and then the smaller one on the right, and both of them are scenting her. Irrelephants, you want to know how often elephant cows come into estrus. Well, it depends on how they do with their calf. If they have a calf that grows up to make it through the baby phase, then you'll find that it will probably be about every 3.5 to 4 years between estrus cycles. Oh, there's a big game going on. Craig, let me try and reposition you slightly. Sorry, Irrelephants, I'll answer the rest of your question now. It's just these boys are having such a nice game. I'm going to try to see if I can get rid of the bar from the roof that's across the frame. Sorry, Craig, just hold on. So yeah, it's about every 3 to 4 years between calvings, if their calf makes it. Obviously, if the calf doesn't make it and it dies, then they'll come into estrus fairly soon afterwards, within a few weeks, to be able to then mate again. But you can see water is playtime. You can see lots of pushing and shoving from the young males. There's lots of greetings. You see that little one putting its trunk in the other one's mouth. That's a way that they'll greet one another and just check who it is. I wouldn't be surprised those two are siblings. It's an older brother and its younger sibling that are together there. But look, they're busy pushing up a little bit of mud. I wonder what he's doing there. He was blowing bubbles. It's like a kid in a bathtub blowing bubbles and just playing around for the sake of doing it. Oh, and we're going to sit down now as well. That does not look comfortable at all. It's amazing. I love it when they start playing like this. It's my favorite thing to watch. Oh, look at this. Isn't this amazing? And look at the two in the back there. They're having a little push around now. And the little one, now that the other one is on his knees, is also getting into the act and pushing and shoving. Size is now no longer an issue. You can actually hear the ivory hitting each other. Almost sounds like two pieces of wood being hit together. So that's how males will often break their tusks, is playing around like this, or if they're actually competing for a female, then the fight becomes a lot more serious and those tusks clash into one another and often will then chip and break from that. Isn't this incredible? Like I say, I was wishing for a really good elephant sighting and I have been absolutely spoilt this morning, having these elephants all around us and now playing in the mud. It's exactly what we were hoping they would do as well. Now you can see why they don't like to drink this water. That elephant there just dropped a few balls of dung in the water itself, and so that's going to float around in there, and that's why when the elephants came and they took a first sip they didn't want to drink it. It's because of that exact reason. It's not the cleanest of water. What an amazing sighting. And these two just don't stop. They're full of nonsense. See, it looks like they're going to come past us now. I wonder if the game is going to continue. This male's got very interesting tusks. You see how the tusks actually grow away from him. It'll be quite interesting to see him in 30-40 years time and see how big those tusks have gone and if they've still carried on with that bowing effect that they've got at the moment going outwards. Might be an absolutely beautiful male when he gets a little bit older. And these two are not quite done with the water and the games. Hopefully this elephant doesn't take a trunk full of mud and start spraying it, because we are directly in the firing line being behind it. Typical youthful males. Isn't this incredible? I love finding elephants in this weather because they become exactly like this. They get lots of energy and they end up playing quite a bit. Sorry, my comms are not very good, so I know Rebecca's talking to me, but I can't hear a word she's saying at this stage. Alright, so thank you, Rebecca. Now I can hear you. We're going to go back to Tayla, who is still busy with her dung, and now that we've seen a few balls coming out into this water, it'll be quite interesting to go and see what's happening with it.
Oh my goodness, I've just opened up a piece of dung can we go to the microscope very quickly, Rebecca? Because I've got a couple of things I would like to show everybody. So on the dung, you obviously saw we found all of the the beautiful termites. Now, most of them have decided to bury themselves and hide away. They've just gone further and further into the dung, except one little termite is still out and about, continuing well with its day, I suppose, and I'm sure it'll slowly start to make its way back and hide away from this light, because as you know that the termites don't enjoy the light too much. Though this particular light is not going to be harming them, it's not as strong as the sun's rays, and we know that they have a very sensitive exoskeleton, but I promise you that it'll be alright. Once it decides what it's going to do, it will disappear into the little crevices. But I found something else, and I don't want it to bite me. I'm just looking while you have a stare. Okay, I don't know, VM, are you going to be able to see this? Right. Look at this inside this dung. It might be a bit dark, but if you look very carefully, it's a little centipede, little centipede. Woo! Sorry, VM. Even though it's so small, I'm going to put it down. Let's put it in the container because I want to have a look at it, but I also don't want it to bite me. I've never been bitten by a centipede before. Let's not make today a first. And I don't know if it'll probably hurt quite a bit, so I'm concentrating, just trying to see where our little centipede friend is now gone. I can't see it wriggling around. I'm just pulling this elephant dung apart a little bit. You'll see. There it is. Are you ready to watch me really fail at the microscope now? Look how bad I am at it. So bad. Okay, now, centipede, you have to stay here. Like that. Just like that. It is the most unbelievable colors. Now, I want it to stay still, of course. Now, this is so difficult. James makes it so easy. Right. Oh, it's running. It's running from us. Hold on. It's going to get a bit dizzy. Can you see it? It's escaping. We'll have to look at its tail. Oh, my goodness, Rebecca. There it is. There it is. Go, Taylor. Go. We've got to be quicker. Okay? Ah, there it is. Hiding away, though. A little bit unfocused. Come on. This microscope is tricky. Come on. I apologize. It's me. I'm useless. Okay, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it a little bit like that. I'm going to try, every time I move this thing, and now you've got to figure out which way. Okay, there we go. Now, I know it's hard to see. Let's try to focus it a little more. That is they're going to go the other way. Come on, microscope. It's stuck. There. Okay, I'm not touching it anymore. I've let go. But it is blue and yellow, and it has reds and greens, and it's obviously a bit nervous, not as brave as what a big centipede would be, because this is tiny. I know you didn't get to see it very well, but it was probably, let me see, very thin. Probably about 3 or 4 needles together. It's really tiny. There, it's starting to move now, but look at that metallic blue and the yellows, and then watch the end. Watch the end of it. Oh my goodness, look at that. Isn't that just the most unbelievable thing you've ever seen? I'm hoping it crawls back into frame. Like I said, it's trying to hide from us because I suspect that it thinks it wants to eat. We want to eat it. But I can promise you, centipede, I'm not interested in eating you. Let's see if we can catch up to it. Oh no, now we've gone out of focus. We have to focus it again. It's quite long. It's coming this way. There it is. You can see it moving. Yeah. Yeah. Here it goes. Crawling. Okay, I think you can come back to me. I don't want to disturb it too much. So initially, I wanted to obviously just try and break up a bit of the dung so that you could have a better look at it. But it's a little bit nervous, and well, I don't blame it. All insects should be scared of myself, James, Jamie, Brent, and Tristan, because of the things we make them do by obviously looking at them. And of course, when they're alive, we've got to make sure that we do respect them as much as we can. We don't want to harm them. So what I will do is I'll take that little guy, try not to get bitten, because I don't know how sore a centipede bite may be. We will put it inside the dung. The termites have gone back into their crevices, and I shall go and deposit the dung back into the bush again. And it seems as though Brent has managed to find some rain. Let's go find out whereabouts he is.
Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get an update. Sorry, Tax, FC was talking to me. Can you go again with the one that's not Palila? Copy, thanks very much, Tax. Now, this cold weather brings some strange happenings. And I drove past here. There we go. That's what we're looking at. Oh, the vulture flew off already. But this cold weather brings some strange happenings. And I just heard from Tax there were bunches of vultures here on quarantine. And he's found 2 dead impalas so far. So that's why I was trying to get here. Let's go have a look. And the vultures are sitting in the tree. They've completely finished one impala already. And this one is nearly done. And it looks like a young one. So what happens, we've had 3 or 4 days of cold, wet weather. Now any impala that are struggling a little bit, might be carrying a disease, or just young and a bit undernourished, or old, will die from the continued exposure to the elements. So there we go, that looks like a young impala, and nothing else is fed on it apart from the birds. So you can see a tiny little male, you can see his little horn sticking out. So almost certainly died from the cold weather overnight and the extended cold weather. Now, I'm just going to move a little bit further away and try hope that some of the vultures who have been lucky enough to spot this, because of course vultures don't like this weather. They like it when it's hot and they can get up high. Oh, I'm just going to try the roof. I don't think we're going to spot them, are we? In that big marula tree there. Actually, let me try to get a bit further away. We get them now, Brian. And there. I shall wait. I'm going to use the road. There we go. Just use the road for a bit of a different angle. So there we go. There's some vultures. What can we see? The backs of the vultures. There's one a little bit more to the right that I think might be facing us. And right on the edge of that branch. There we go. Well, maybe not facing us. It's a hooded vulture. There we go. It's quite well hidden. But the other two look like white-backed vultures just from the size. So I'm going to see if patience plays out in those vultures who will be taking advantage of the fact that they've managed to find food in this really terrible vulture weather. Will come down again. Now, Tiffany is wondering, why is quarantine called quarantine? So Tiffany in the 30s and 40s, and this area was almost in its entirety owned by a company called Consolidated Sugar, and it was a big farming company, and they thought this would be a very good area to establish some cattle farms, and all the bush on this particular area was cleared and cattle kraals or paddocks were put up, and after a few years it was probably one of the worst business decisions from Consolidated Sugar, who did very well in the sugar industry in Natal, and the lions actually were the biggest plague to the cattle farmers. And it's reported that the first sort of manager of the farms out here, in his tenure in 20 years, shot 400 lions trying to defend the cattle. Now, strange enough, he also became the first warden of the now Sabi Sand Game Reserve. Now, but even still, for that, quite a few years of that, the farms were cut up and sold off to different people and were used as private hunting farms. That has all changed. It's been changed for a long time now, since the early 60s, late 60s probably in some parts, and it is now obviously all a game reserve. So that's why it's called quarantine. This is where the cattle were quarantined before being moved to different parts of the reserve. Now quickly across to Tristan with an elephant who's using his head.
So we were having an elephant pushing over a tree, but he's now just sauntering off into the distance, not too phased at all. Now, interestingly enough, those two males that were having such a nice game around the waterhole got a bit out of hand, and actually the one ended up getting a little injury. He's got a nice big gash on his trunk now near his tusk, and that's the one that's busy walking away from us. So I was hoping to show you that gash because he ended up pushing against the other one's tusk and it just slipped through and has opened up a nice little wound. But it won't be anything to worry about. It's very superficial. It'll heal up in time. Elephants are very good at keeping wounds in good order. They'll pack mud onto it and seal it up with mud and keep all the bacteria out. Now the rest of the herd has just gone off into the right here, and they're having a good feed on all this vegetation on the right hand side, and they are slowly but surely making their way up to quarantine clearing. So we're going to slowly but surely make our way with them that way and see if we can pick them up right out in the open, because then we can get a true sense of how many elephants are here. Obviously in that thicket there was elephants everywhere, but it's difficult to give you a true sense of the numbers until they get right out into the open. It was really quite spectacular to be in amongst them. Now let's see if this little male will turn around for us so we can show you the nice wound that he picked up. Now I'm sorry, so you can just see above on his trunk there, just next to that right tusk, there's a little flesh wound there. There it is. So that's where one of the other tusks went into his nose, or his trunk should we say, and has caused a little hole to form. But like I said, nothing too difficult or major. This bull will be more than fine. He's not going to worry too much about that, and he's going to get far worse wounds than that later in life when he starts competing for mating as a big old male. Well, something's piqued his interest. He's obviously smelt something under the ground, and now look at how he's digging. You see how he's using those feet. So we were talking earlier about digging for water, but they also dig really well for roots and tubers, and at this time of the year there's lots of little roots that they like to dig up. So he obviously smelt something that he wanted there. You can see he's put it in his mouth. I didn't see exactly what it was, but it looks like a bulb of some sort, so maybe a tuber from one of these plants that grows here. And off he goes. Now he's going to probably go and rejoin the herd. He's drifted off them slightly, so I think he's on his way back to the rest of them. But what a special morning it's been with these elephants. I've really thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. I had such a nice time. And at one point, like I said, there was just elephants all the way around us. Everywhere we looked, there was elephants. So it was really quite something. So what I'm going to do now is, because they're busy going through the bush now, I'm going to quickly go round and see if we can get them on the other side. Like I say, I'm hoping they're going to come out into the clearings itself. So while we do that, let's go to Tayla, who I believe is playing with some skulls.
This is, of course, VM and I are playing games, and if you want to have a proper look at VM's, I'm actually going to jump out of the shot here. Look at his most magnificent lamp that he's created out of the various skulls. VM, I think you've got a little knack here. I think you could go into interior designing if you thought that this wasn't for you.
Yeah, or voodoo.
Or voodoo, yeah. Yeah, that or voodoo. Very, very, very nice. That is very lovely. And of course, earlier in the show, I'd asked some of you what you would like to see in the tent, and I've now forgotten who was asking. Let me go back, because I had this all in my head and I forgot. Alice from Ohio. Hello, Alice. Let's go back to my beautiful dung beetle picture that I found. You were asking if we could see the honey badger skull again. Here it is. How crazy is that? And to me, if you ever have seen a honey badger, they're the most incredible creatures. They're one of my favorite. I love them, and I love elephants and hyenas and all sorts of millipedes and termites a little bit more than I love honey badgers, but they're exceptionally fascinating to watch. And something that's really special is their brain cavity. Now, you may have seen lots and lots of videos about honey badgers and how they're incredible escape artists, and here we go. Here's one of them. They are exceptional problem solvers, and that's why they need a lot of room. They've got a very well-developed brain, and hopefully we're not just going to be showing you the skeleton, the skull of a honey badger. Hopefully we were able to move on to something a little bit better, like a real one. So I think in the next couple of drives, or hopefully once it warms up, and we'll probably have a better chance when winter comes around and all the grass starts to disappear, and it becomes difficult for the animals to hide away, maybe we'll start seeing some. I did actually see a honey badger. I saw 2 on a walk once, but it was so quick I didn't really get to see them. Now, it seems as though death is among us at the moment, which is a little bit unfortunate, and it seems though Brent has got another deceased impala.
Okay, so guys, I'm just going to warn you now, this is not for sensitive viewers. So as I said, a couple of these impala have died from the cold overnight, and the vultures have got hold of them. And you can see there's almost nothing left on this vulture here, on this impala. And if you look carefully at the bones here, as I clean it off a bit, you can see on the rib cage, they're not white yet, they're not solid. And if I take my fingers, you can see it's a young animal. Oh no, I did it so well earlier. Ah, there we go. I can break the ribs with just a little bit of a turn. Now again, this is not for sensitive viewers what I'm about to do. So somehow the vultures have literally turned the skin inside out. So the head is actually in here, inside this flap of skin. So as you can see, the vultures, even though their beaks are powerful, they're not able to break open those bones. And I just want to see how much of the head is left. So as I said, warn, not for sensitive viewers. So I tried to open up the skin without using a knife earlier, but they've literally turned this completely inside out. Now again, it's, as I said, it's another young impala. And don't worry, I will wash my hands before breakfast. So there we go, turn it inside out, and it's another young male. So it's what I was really looking forward to looking at. Now you can see they're unable, there's not much meat on an impala's face, but only one eye was taken out, and it's taken out quite delicately. So I'm presuming that was a battalier who found it first. And then the vultures in their fight haven't even removed the soft parts around the nose or the other eye, because in that tussle they managed to literally turn that skin upside down, and you can see what a big fight it was. I think the carcass was probably over here initially. This is where that animal would have died, and look at these vulture tracks and feathers and this massive fight that ensued between the bigger vulture species, probably the whiteback vultures being the most dominant on this, because with the lappet face they probably would have been able to cut open some of that skin, take off the ears and the remaining eye. But it is amazing, and now even this will not go to waste. The carrion beetles get in there, and I'm pretty sure that hyena's not too far away, so it might get lucky as well. Let me find, there we go. Let me put that back in there so I can hear what Final Control wants me to do. But yes, as I said, not for sensitive viewers, but still incredibly fascinating. This is just as much part of life as birth. So death is part of life, and obviously there was something wrong with these little impalas that we couldn't see on the outside, and it's not uncommon, as I said, for impala and zebra to die in these cold snaps, the young and the old. The other animals seem to be a little bit more resilient, but if this continues on and on, it might affect kudu or waterback. Now Zaz is wondering how low must the temperature get for this animal to die of the cold. Well Zaz, it's probably, we haven't got below 20 degrees Celsius in this whole time. It's just the fact that it's been constantly raining and wet. So at nighttime temperatures are probably 18, 19 degrees C, so not that cold. But there's obviously didn't get really good milk while it was growing up. Maybe it was one of the firstborn, so before the rain set in, so the mother didn't have nutritious food, so therefore the baby didn't get nutritious milk. It might have had a genetic disease, it might have had another complication. So a lot of those things that you often see in human beings, because we're able to care for people in hospitals and stuff, you never actually see any of those diseases or genetic defects manifest into adulthood, because the slightest little change in the environment out here can lead to death or a predator catching you. So it is a really tough life out here. So I just think it's amazing how those vultures in that fight got that skin completely inside out, that I couldn't even wrestle it open, that I had to use a knife to open it out. Well, it's definitely not something you see every day. I know it's a bit macabre, but there we go. Well, hopefully we've opened it up for the battalier to finish his job around the ears, the nose and the other eye. or the remaining vultures might come back if they see that there's a chance at another little snippet of food. Oh, okay. Well, it has been a very chilly morning. Now, as we leave quite a macabre baby impala and see what else we can find in the last few minutes, apparently Tayla, I don't believe this though, apparently Tayla is very serious. Tayla is not serious, so I can't wait to see what she's being serious about in the tent.
I'm serious? Me? Never. Not even once. I've never been serious once, not even in my life, ever. I don't know what I'm supposed to be serious about, but Brent, I'm a little bit sad about the topic that you've just been chatting about. It is really tough. It just shows you how cruel nature can be, and how it really is just the fittest that will survive out here. I've actually got some squirrels shouting about outside, but I'm not too bothered by them because they always fool me. And they alarm call as if there was a predator nearby, whether it be a snake, a bird, who knows what. But, well, I don't think there's anything. And I'm also not talking to the squirrels after I couldn't find one yesterday. And yesterday's weather was much better than what the weather has turned into right now. It's very drizzly and cold. And, well, I hope the squirrels don't die of cold shock either. But can I lighten the mood a little bit for all of you? Have a look what I've found. I've just discovered, I don't know where you find it, but somehow managed to find a rainbow scarab beetle. Look at this. I just have to show you from a distance. Look how pretty they are. I'm lightening the mood because I'm very sad now about what we've been talking about and seeing, unfortunately, dead impala. But isn't that incredible? I wish we got rainbow scarab beetles around here. And as you know, the scarab beetles, the dung beetles, belong to them too, to the same, I'm saying that same about 100 times. That same last time group. Now, I have got something to show you. Something that, I have to just turn my radio up because I think Rebecca tried to talk to me, but I couldn't hear her. So, something that you probably will never be able to see, or something we try and keep hidden. Are you ready? Are you ready? Should we show them? The only rhino you will see. How cool is that? I just thought I'd show you my mobile cover because I'm sure some of you are missing and have forgotten what a rhinoceros looks like. They're still around, they're out and about, but here is a colorful one and a painted one. Now, one of the reasons why we don't view rhinos is just because of all the poaching that goes on around here. And as you can imagine, it's very easy for people to pick up on the road names and areas that we're constantly talking about. So if we were to show rhinos, we're basically putting a big circle and a target right above them saying, right, here we are, I'm beautiful, I've got a big horn. So we try and keep them hidden as if they were completely invisible out here in the bush. People know that there's rhinos in the Greater Kruger National Park. That's no big secret at all. We just try and do our bit by trying to conserve them and protect them as much as we can. Unfortunately, as wonderful as what technology is and all the good thing that it has enabled us to do over the last century, unfortunately, it also allows for bad things. And, well, GPS technology is incredible these days, and all you need is the name of a road, and you could easily search and find where these animals are. So we try and keep them hidden, but you never know. It's really wonderful. So if you want to see a rhinoceros, you're going to have to come all the way out to South Africa and come on a safari with us. Of course, you won't just be seeing rhinos, but you'll be seeing all the most incredible animals too. Now, Tristan's had a fantastic day today. He's had the elephants playing around, and they didn't let the cold weather get them down. I think he's moved on from those elephants now. We're heading to the final moments of the show. Let's go across to him.
So unfortunately our elephants have still not appeared on quarantine. They've still far in the thickets and haven't come up. But while we were coming up here to check, we managed to find a fish eagle that is sitting in one of the marulas, hiding out from the approaching squall that's coming our way. So in there, and look at that for camouflage. Not very easy to see it. The only thing that gives it away is its white head against that dark coloured background with the leaves. As you can see, every now and then there's a few birds that have been dive bombing it. There were some francolins complaining as well. Even though the fish eagle eats mostly fish, it will go after lizards and varying other prey items and sometimes even small mammals. So that's why the francolins are complaining at it. Now I wonder if they've come here because the dam is filled up a little bit and they want to check if there's any signs of fish in those dams. There is nothing at the moment inside Gowrie Dam. I haven't seen any sign of fish yet, and it would be a little bit early still. So I'm sure this bird is just waiting to see if the fish grow out, and it can then start to hunt them. Virginia, you want to know which bird is facing extinction in Kruger? Well, probably that's a difficult one, because there are certain species of birds in Kruger that are very, very rare, but it's only because they're in the southernmost tip of their distribution. If you go outside of the Kruger, then they are quite numerous. So something like a collared palm thrush, there's only one breeding pair in the whole of the Kruger National Park. But in terms of facing a race to extinction, probably the vultures. So the vultures are the ones that are really having a hard time at the moment. We're ending up with a situation where there's a lot of farmers that are poisoning their crops, their carcasses that they find of something like, let's say, jackals killed their lamb or their cows, and so they poison that carcass, and the vultures come and eat it, and they then get killed. As well as witch doctors, which is a type of local medicine that's practiced, they're also killing them to use them for all kinds of predictions for people. So vultures are the ones that are really being pushed to the brink. So at the moment, I would imagine that in terms of the vulture species, the one that's probably doing the worst in the Kruger Park is the Cape vulture. So that is very, very few of those left. And then followed closely behind that, the lappet-faced vulture is also declining quite quickly. So really not too many left. Oh, I'm just going past Brent's Impala carcass there. Seems like the vultures did a really good job in cleaning that up. Quite amazing. Brent was telling me about the head being turned inside out. Very, 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 very cool to see. It's not often you're going to see that. And you can actually see all the vultures sitting up in front of us here in the dead tree. So I'm just going to stop there. And you can see them all waiting for the next Impala. I believe Brent found two. So they are waiting for that Impala to come down and feed. And I think because Brent and I have both been here, that's why they've gone up into the tree there and are just waiting for it to get quiet again before they come down and actually start to feed. Well, it's been an absolutely incredible morning, and it's that time of the day to start saying goodbye. We've had a fantastic time with the elephants. Pity that we couldn't find the Matimbas, but it's been great to have you aboard. From myself and Craig and Brent and Tayla, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you this afternoon.